Always that pesky mute button down there. Good evening, everyone. My name is Colin Daly. Phillies pregame live coming at you from Philadelphia Sports Reports, Philly Sports Reports. And wow, guys, Game 1 victory came out of the blue, down 5-0 in 3 innings. The Fighting Phils do not quit. We love to see it. Yesterday was a thriller. Phillies now lead 1-0 in the series coming into Game 2. Zach Wheeler and Framber Valdez are set to they're squaring off today here at Minute Maid Park. 7:35 p.m. Eastern. I apologize for the late start. I was just finishing up my notes, and we are about 28 minutes away from first pitch. Unfortunately, Ben Goldstein could not be with us tonight. He's actually heading down to Citizens Bank Park, which is very exciting, and he'll be on the cover for tonight's game. He'll have your post-game article on phillysportsreports.com. Before we get into that, I would like to discuss our pitching matchups as we always do. Framber Valdez and Zach Wheeler, who, we've seen great stuff out of Wheeler. Really, since he's come back from the injured list, from that tendonitis, he's been very dominant. He's been able to get hitters out quickly, limited his pitch count, and that's what you really want to see, especially in the playoffs. Because if the Phillies end up down in the series, they might need him to come off short rest. So if you can get 6 innings and keep him, maybe under 100 pitches would be great. Under 90 pitches would be incredible. Because if you can get Wheeler out of that game, through enough innings to keep your bullpen fresh, but also to keep his pitch count low, that would be awesome. But I know Wheeler's been really good. His fastball velocity has really climbed. You can tell that he was not fully healthy a few starts, before he was part of the injured list. And now that he's come back, he's a whole new pitcher. I mean, he's firing in the strike zone, getting a lot more swings and misses, and just in general, he's been much more effective. I mean, we saw him against San Diego. He was lights out, right? Every game he's pitched, even the one where he semi struggled in the division series against Atlanta. A lot of that you can blame on the Braves or on the Phillies and their defense, because the Braves had some lucky hits. I thought Wheeler had great stuff in that start. He's really had great stuff in every playoff start. I mean, you saw what he did against the Cardinals. That was incredible. I mean, so many good bats now. And Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, Albert Pujols. He kept all those guys quiet. He was able to keep, guys, especially some lefties that he's facing, very good lefties. Juan Soto, right? Josh Bell. These are all guys who have faced him from the left side. He's done a very good job of keeping in check. And I mean, that's what's great about Wheeler. He's got so many pitches, and he's able to go to whatever's working for him specifically, and they all seem to be very, very effective. We saw against San Diego, his two-seam was very good, and that's usually, when you think of two-seam in Phillies, the first thought you usually go to is Aaron Nola, who has one of the best two-seams in baseball. But no, I mean, Wheeler was great with it in his last start. He did an excellent job commanding it and using it to get guys out in both swings and misses and strike threes looking, which is very, very good to see from him. Especially coming into now this start against an offense, which Cardinals offense is good, Padres offense is good. The Braves, of course, is a very good offense, even though I say they're probably more pitching focused. This Astros offense is a little bit different caliber. I mean, you've got guys at the top, Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve. Alvarez is one of the best, if not the best, offensive players in the American League, aside from Aaron Judge during the regular season. You got Jose Altuve with tons of postseason experience. He's struggling with tons of postseason experience. You cannot count him out. You got Bregman in there, tons of postseason experience. And there's some young rookies. I mean, Chaz McCormick, he's been a guy who's been hitting the ball pretty well. Jeremy Pena, he won the MVP in the American League Championship Series. What he's been able to do his rookie year is incredible. I've seen some very good features on him on MLB Network, and things that, the way he plays the game, it's just, he's smooth with everything. He's athletic. He plays the game the right way, and he's one of those guys who often gets overlooked in a lineup like the Astros have. Because when you think of the Astros lineup, everyone's scared of Yordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, those type of guys, and even the veteran catchers, Vasquez and Maldonado, they're not having great offensive seasons, but they're the names that you know. A lot of people might not know the name Jeremy Pena, but he's a guy who could do damage if you don't attack him properly. So that is a guy who I think, you cannot overlook what he's done this season for Houston and what he can continue to do if he starts hitting the way he did in the ALCS. Because he was amazing. I mean, the biggest highlight of his postseason was probably, that home run against the Mariners and won them the game in those. My God, was that 18 innings? I think it went. I turned that game on in the 8th inning, expecting to see the last inning, and I ended up somehow seeing 10 more. I don't know how that ended up happening, but I give both those teams credit for letting that happen. And then of course you got Framber Valdez, who, you look at two guys who've been really consistent, Wheeler and Valdez. Valdez is right there with Wheels. I mean, he has been ridiculous. I mean, he actually pitches very similarly to Wheeler from the left side. Good slider, fastball. He can touch 95, he'll go up to 97 occasionally. Very consistent. He really towards the middle of the season is when, the Framber Valdez thing really came into effect, and when he started to become more noticed after being not a no-name pitcher, but a guy who, wasn't necessarily considered a top-tier pitcher. He's really, he scratched his way in there, and he's made himself known. And, I mean, look at him now. He's starting Game 2 in the World Series, and, this is a huge game for the Astros, right? If they don't take a victory here, they're going back to Philadelphia, where the Phillies have not lost a game in Citizens Bank Park this entire month. Down 2-0 is a very tough spot for them. I mean, even if the Phillies were to lose these two games, obviously now with the win yesterday, that's impossible. We will get into that win yesterday in just a few moments. I'd still have confidence the Phillies would take at least 2 of 3 in Philadelphia. So, this is the game I think it's going to decide the series, especially for the Phillies. If the Phillies win today, I just cannot see a world where the Astros come back. I mean, Philly is going to be a tough environment for Houston to play in. I mean, we saw these fans in Philadelphia were going crazy in the wild card they played in St. Louis, but in the division series, the championship series. Now I hate to say it, but come on, it's the Astros in the World Series in Philadelphia, and game number 1's on Halloween, folks. There could be some interesting costumes. You better watch out. We might see a few trash cans here or there. That would be very symbolic. So I do think that this game is going to have a huge impact on how this series turns out. Because, if the Phillies win today, I can't see Houston coming back. And even if Houston does salvage the split at their home turf, it still puts the Phillies in a great spot. So, of course, it's a game that you want to win. But I think here's what I'll say. I don't want to say it's going to decide the series, but for at least the series in Philadelphia, this could decide where the momentum goes. Even though today's game hasn't started yet, it's obvious that the momentum right now is shifted towards the Phillies. Last night, which I guess I'll get into last night now, 5-0 Houston lead. Kyle Tucker had 4 of the 5 RBIs for Houston. Things were not going the Phillies' way. Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper, Rhys Hoskins, they strung together some singles. Got the Phillies on the board first. Alec Boehm doubles in 2, and you think, all right, 5-3. Maybe they're back in this. Maybe it's a fluke. Now, following inning, Brandon Marsh doubles. Kyle Schwarber walks. And JT Realmuto, game-tying double off Justin Verlander, the probable American League Cy Young Award winner. They got to him. He was pulled. Aaron Nola was pulled. And just like that, the new ball game, Lone Star State. Fast forward, 10th inning. Game is still tied at 5. JT Realmuto takes a high-away fastball from Luis Garcia, and he drills it over the right field wall, just past the outstretched Kyle Tucker. There's so much symbolism there. My favorite part is that Kyle Tucker is the one who just barely missed the ball. And that out of everybody that was on that diamond, other than Luis Garcia, Kyle Tucker wanted to reel that one in the most. He had probably the most impactful game of his career, and he watched the rest of his team blow it at home right in front of his eyes. And that is a painful feeling, whether you are the pitcher, the hitter, anybody. But, I mean, Tucker did his part. I mean, Rob Thompson outmanaged Dusty Baker. I mean, his bullpen decisions, though I questioned some, I will say. I did not agree with Alvarado coming in after Noah. I did not agree with that. I was an unhappy camper at that point, but no, it worked. Then you go to Eflin. Then you go to Sir Anthony. You bring Ranger in there. Everything seemed to go in the Phillies' favor. I mean, the way that Rob Thompson handled the bullpen was incredible. The way Dusty Baker handled the bullpen is how you'd expect it. I mean, this Astros bullpen has been ridiculous through the postseason. Unfortunately for them, they just did not, they had it, but it took one swing. I mean, it was a collective effort from the Phillies yesterday. It really was. But it was that one swing off that one pitch that changed it. And, if you're the Astros, you cannot let that happen. Under no circumstances can you let that happen. And unfortunately, those are the things that are going to come back to bite you. But, I mean, if the Phillies lost that game, that is, you can go back to Hector Neris striking out Nick Castellanos. The bases loaded. He didn't throw one ball in the strike zone that entire at-bat. Castellanos just waved through 3 pitches of like the 5 or 6 that he saw. I mean, you can say something about everything, but there's a point where you need to put your foot down and say, hey, something here needs to change. And for the Astros, they could not do that last night. They couldn't get that one extra run. Luis Garcia could not execute a better pitch in that situation. And, that's why the Phillies ended up winning that ball game. And you need to give the Phillies credit for it. That was impressive, right? These are the things that, the Phillies do well. They don't quit. Their team chemistry is better than ever. I mean, that is obvious at this point. I mean, this team is just, they're blowing everyone away. No one expected the Phillies to come into the series and win game 1 with Aaron Nola on the mound against Justin Verlander, the only pitcher in baseball to have an ERA below 2 in the regular season. I mean, he was the best pitcher in baseball, and it wasn't even close this season. I mean, Sandy Alcantara was great for the Marlins in the National League. Julio Urias was great. Dylan Cease was great. But no, Justin Verlander, I mean, he was dominant. I mean, we even saw it. The Phillies faced Verlander in the regular season just a few weeks ago. 5 hitless innings. This guy is the real deal. The dude's 39 years old, but he's the real deal. The Phillies were able to get to him last night, and that was incredible. All right, that's enough rambling on about last night. Tonight, we need to focus on game number 2. We're going to get into our lineups before we get into anything else. Kyle Schwarber leading off in left field. Rhys Hoskins is batting second, playing first. JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper. They're still going to stick with that. Rob Thompson did say that they talked about it. They liked where they are now. So Realmuto's going to stay third. Harper's fourth. And Nick Castellanos had that big hit last night. Big catch. Obviously the catch isn't going to influence the way they pitch to him. But with that single that really started this rally for Philadelphia, maybe that Harper will see some more competitive pitches. I don't think so personally, because Castellanos still has not looked good at the plate. But I guess that's a shred of hope you can kind of put your foot on there. Alec Boehm, he's batting sixth, playing third base. Gene Segura, he's hit in the 7-hole tonight, second base, moved up a spot because Matt Vierling and Edmundo Sosa are drawing starts against the lefty here. Phillies are going to ride with 7 of their 9 starters batting from the right side, with Bryson Stott and Brandon Marsh out of the lineup. In terms of where I think we'll see them tonight, I do not anticipate seeing either of them unless the Phillies are in a close game where they are leading in the 9th inning. You might want to throw Brandon Marsh in there, move Matt Vierling over to left field or right field, depending on where the Phillies are in the lineup. If they were unable to hold that lead and have to go to the bottom of the 9th inning. If they have to go to the top of the 10th inning, the Phillies are away here. Because really, you want to keep your best guys, your best defensive guys in there if you're tired of losing. And it's about getting swings too. So I don't know how much of a difference you're going to get out of Marsh and Vierling and Stott and Sosa. You could argue that, Marsh has been great since coming to Philly. You could say Stott has had some really big moments, especially in situations that are higher pressure. But in the grand scheme of things, baseball doesn't usually work that way. So I'm expecting that we'll see Sosa and Verling out there for the entire game this evening. Now we're going to head into our keys to the game, which are brought to you by, yep, you know it, SeatGeek. My key to the game is a little bit, it's kind of like the opposite of yesterday's, which is you got to score early here. If you can get Framber Valdez out of the game, that is the goal right now, because the Astros, just like the Phillies, and Dusty Baker completely admitted this last night. The Phillies used a ton of their bullpen pieces last night, but the Astros did too. I mean, they used Ryan Presley, Brian Abreu, Hector Neris, Luis Garcia. So, if these guys pitch, they're not going to be as sharp, and if they don't, you're going to see some of the lower leverage guys come in, and that's where you can really, if you get the lead early, get Framber Valdez out of the game, that's those middle innings there is where you can really kind of set yourself apart from Houston and get this game out of reach. Now, on the other hand, you need to keep in mind, well, people probably thought that game was out of reach yesterday, which leads me into our standout stats brought to you by SeatGeek. Kind of perfect unplanned transition here. 29-0 were the Houston Astros and leading by 5 runs or more in a postseason game. Well. That is now 29-1. As you saw the Phillies come back with a 5-run, they eliminated the 5-run deficit, yesterday. So while, you might think, well, out of reach, maybe not. And again, I mean, when I wrote my post-game article this morning, I was like, you can justify thinking the Phillies were out of that game. You really can. I mean, every stat pointed towards the Astros winning easily, but it didn't happen. So really, that's going to be another key for the Phillies today, is even if they get up early, you need to make sure that you keep putting together good at-bats, passing the baton, right? Keep pitching well. I mean, you cannot take your foot off the pedal today, because especially after yesterday, the Astros are going to want to stay competitive, and they will not give up until the Phillies have gotten 27 outs, or until they have gotten 27 outs. Their foot won't come off the pedal, and the Phillies need to match that. If the Phillies do not match that, it's not going to go well. So that is my standout stat. Get the Valdez early, score runs early, but keep it going. The Astros bullpen is tired. And this is your reminder. This section stats is brought to you by SeatGeek. Please make sure that if you are ordering your tickets, SeatGeek is the place you want to go. By using code PhillySportsReport, you will get $20 off your first order of $50 or more. And again, that is Philly Sports Report. Everything you've got is right there. And if you go to the description of this video, all of that will be down there. So make sure you're checking that out. You'll save $20 on your first purchase of $50 or more. And this is not just Phillies. You can go to any sports event, any concert, any place that needs tickets. Check SeatGeek, because they probably have it. Anyway, make sure while you're at it to follow us on Twitter at Philly Sports Report, and make sure to like and subscribe. All right, before we wrap up today's edition of the Phillies Pregame Live, it is natural for me to give my prediction. And as crazy as it may seem, it's hard to bet against these Phillies right now. The way they came out yesterday and the way that I expect them to come out today, it's very hard to doubt them. I mean, we saw them come back. We've seen them fight all season long. They always seem to follow up cold streaks with a very, very hot streak. So it's hard to bet against this team. So I'm going to have to say the Phillies are taking it today, 5-3. A little bit lower scoring than yesterday. I think Wheeler's great. I think the bullpen allows us 3 runs. I think it's going to be one of those weird games. I don't know. I'm kind of just pulling this pull this out of nowhere. I think it's gonna be one of those weird games where it gets at the back and forth, like the Astros score first, and the Phillies score two, and the Astros and the Phillies, and like that kind of thing. So it's going to be a good one to watch, but I do think the Phillies will eventually just pull out in front. I think it's going to be low scoring at the end of the game. And once we get to the bullpens, that's when it's going to start going back and forth because really, the Astros bullpen is good, but a lot of those guys, I'd say inconsistently good, but they haven't really proven themselves beyond this season. I mean, of course, Ryan Presley's been excellent for a while, but guys like Brian Abreu, a little younger, or you've got the Hector Neris, who we saw in Philadelphia, not always consistent, or you've got the guys Luis Garcia, has bounced around in different roles a little bit, and it just doesn't seem super likely that they're going to continue this ridiculous postseason run that maybe they've allowed like 4 runs in almost 40 innings. Meanwhile, the Phillies bullpen has also been great. So I'm thinking that these two might slack off a little bit, and it would make sense if the starters, have some success, especially after last night where, Verlander, he was below expectations. Nola struggled again. So, I'm hoping that we see another good matchup tonight, and that especially here, the bullpens. I'm always looking for games where they come down to the wire. And with these two teams, I think that's of all the games in this series are really going to turn out because you've got the offenses, which are good, right? Phillies have got Schwarber, Harper, all those guys at the top have done an excellent job. The bottom has not been as good as they were in the beginning. Segura, Marsh had some very big moments in the beginning of the postseason. They've kind of cooled off a little bit. But then for the Astros, they are kind of, they're kind of the opposite. Last night they got the runs from Kyle Tucker, where, the guys you're looking to control are like the Yordan Alvarez's, the Jose Altuve's, the Alex Bregmans, who have struggled recently. Now, Bregman has probably struggled the least of the three, depending on how you look at it, but his World Series history is not good. He's hitting under 190 in his career during the World Series. Jose Altuve has been abysmal. I mean, he has been really bad. He looked okay last night. He has a few decent swings, but he has not been the same guy we saw in the regular season, who's, one of probably the best second baseman in the American League. Just not the same guy. Or the Phillies have had some guys step up, but it's really been the guys you expected. Harper. Schwarber has had some big home runs. Hoskins has big home runs. I mean, it's the guys you expect, and quite frankly, this is who you thought would lead this Phillies team. It took 170-some games, but they finally figured out how this team works. And some of it might be because they haven't gotten injured. Some of it might be pure luck. Or some of it might be the chemistry finally. They figured out, they got all healthy. I said this in one of our podcasts. This is the longest, period of time the Phillies have been fully healthy. Because, when you got Brandon Marsh, Castellanos got hurt a few days after. And then, Harper wasn't active at the beginning. Segura wasn't active at the beginning of Marsh's tenure at the Phillies. So it's pretty crazy to think that we haven't seen this team, and it shows you one thing, and I think it's pretty clear cut, is the Phillies need their entire team to succeed. I mean, it can't be a coincidence that as soon as they finally get fully healthy, they clinch a playoff spot, beat the Cardinals, you can say the Phillies are a team of destiny. The Cardinals had like the biggest moral reason to win this World Series than any other team in the postseason. They knocked them down in 2 games. Atlanta, over 100 wins. 1-4. We 4-1 San Diego. I mean, that just doesn't happen I said it could be luck. Some of it is, but it's not pure luck. It's not only luck. I mean, it shows you that when this team is together, they're very, very talented. And that's the only way you can get here. I mean, you don't see bad teams in the World Series. I mean, the teams that are in here, the 12 teams in the postseason, are in the postseason for a reason. It's because they did enough in the regular season to put themselves in this situation. And then from there, it's all from scratch. And that's the same thing. I mean, I don't understand why people complain about this kind of stuff. Every series starts new. I mean, here we are, game number 2 of the World Series, and the Phillies are leading 1-0. They could take complete control of this series for the win tonight. Of course, easier said than done. But how crazy would that be? I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you all for listening. Again, I'm Colin Daly. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Philly Sports Reports. Eliminate the vowels, add the E in reports. That is right on the screen below me. Again, thank you all for listening. It is 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. The Phillies are coming up in just about 3 minutes. And folks, enjoy the game. Go Phillies.